Hello, my friends. It is your old pal Peace Love Music, and we are here with episode 12. I think it's episode 12, if I've been counting correctly, of the DeOrganized Spotlight live podcast brought to you by DeOrganized Media in partnership with Bitcoin Live Decentralized Broadcasting. We have a great lineup of guests for you, joining me and my co-host Haddy. We have Mike Jagdeo guest co-hosting and talking about some of his project and what he's been working on. We have awesome friend, Crypto OG, Stacks OG, Mr. Wagme in the house, and Hadan, the DeFi poet from Alex Foundation, is also here to join us today. We are super excited to have such another awesome lineup of guests for you. What's up, Reese? Congrats, man, on the success of your still active and probably going higher auction on that awesome piece, the Tides. I'm going to bring in our guest co-host, Haddy. How are you today, man?
I'm very good. Very good. So looking forward to being on here. And yes, congratulations, Reese, on starting with that. And happy 100,000 day.
Yes, that's right. It's also $100,000 Bitcoin day forever. December 5th will be a holiday for probably for the rest of humanity. What's up, Michael? How are you today, man? I love the leopard. I love the leopard look.
Like, don't mind me. I'm reading the bio of the new SEC chairman, Paul
Atkins.
Yeah. More to come. Stay
Crypto
tuned.
looks good. The future looks good for crypto in the U.S.
I can't imagine it would have looked better with this pick for chairman, but we'll talk about that soon. Let me put together the data.
Cool. We got Hadan in the house. Hadan, how are you today, man? Great to see you again.
Good, guys. Happy to be on with you today on this historic day. Let's talk some Bitcoin. Let's talk some stacks and all good things.
Let's go. Yep. Let's go. And Mr. Wagme making his first appearance on the DeOrganized Media shows. What's up, man? Super excited to have you out here. Thank you for jumping in short notice.
No problem. Happy 100K Bitcoin Day to everybody, and looking forward to the conversation.
Right on. So our community generally knows most of you guys, but I'm going to let everyone kind of go through and just give us a little bit of an introduction. Michael, why don't you go first?
All right. Hello. My name is Michael Jagdeo, Coconut, reporting from North America, the socialist democracy you might know as Canada. I look like Franklin the Turtle, and when I'm not researching the new SEC chairman, I'm a headhunter launching startups with the syndicate.
Very good. And a snappy dresser, might I add. Hadan, how are you? Let's tell everybody what you're at today.
Sure, everyone. I'm Hadan. I'm the business development lead with the Alex Lab Foundation. So I coordinate between the Alex community and Alex Go, which is the tech platform. And happy to join you all today. It's been a remarkable past 24 hours for Bitcoin and for the Bitcoin ecosystems as a whole. So really happy to be sharing some thoughts, talking some opportunities, and discussing where we think we go next from here. But it's looking good. It's looking like we're going up.
Very good, man. Super happy to have you here. And Mr. Wagme, I don't know that there's probably anyone watching that doesn't know who you are, but tell us who you are. Who is Mr. Wagme?
Yeah, for everybody hearing for the first time, I'm one of the Stacks community members. I got into Stacks about 2021, got into Bitcoin around the 2017 bull market, and just very passionate about the entire ecosystem, all the builders and the people that are there, and have stuck around ever since. So, yep.
Cool. So I don't have people that don't know, I kind of, when I do this show, depending on who the guests are, I just let people talk about whatever they want to talk about. It's kind of an open platform, so we can talk about anything you guys want to share. Wagme, I know you're a little bit limited on time, so I'm going to let you go first.
Sure.
What's going on in your world that we should know about?
Oh, just everything, staying up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and just kind of, fight and sleep every time it starts running. But, more than anything, the biggest things that are like on my radar is I'm watching all the new builders coming in this space and all the different applications. And that's most exciting to me, is seeing these different use cases. But, as a conversation topic, I'd throw one back to the audience. What were y'all doing when we hit 100K? So.
I was sleeping. I woke up to just under 103, and it had been tipping down. And my sleep window is like 10. All times are Eastern as far as I'm concerned. So it's Eastern time. 10 p.m. I'm out. 4 a.m. there's a good chance shortly thereafter I'm going to be awake, and that's pretty much my normal whatever. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm just old enough now where I can't sleep past, oh God, if I sleep to 6 o'clock, it's a miracle. So by the time I woke up, we had already hit 103. Then I started doing the news for this morning, and it was again 103. And then for a brief minute, Stacks was in the top 3 gainers over the last 24 hours. But it didn't last long enough for me to report it on the show. So I was a little bummed that I didn't get to. But I told everybody about it anyway. So that's where I was. Where were you guys?
Feel free, Haddy.
For me, I woke up this morning, so I was sleeping as well. And I had a message from Zero. So that's how I found out. So I had a message from him saying, happy 100K day. He's like, happy 100K. So that's what I got this morning.
Zero? You said Zero?
Yeah, Zero.
He texted like 1 million people all at once.
It was in the team, so he sent a message for all of us. So it was like happy 100K, and then I had a look at the price. It was like 103. I was like, okay, this is the rocket ship. The rocket ship looks like it's starting to lift off.
Yeah, it didn't just pussyfoot around. It broke right through. I think we're still over 101. Last I checked, which was probably about an hour ago, we're still over 100. I think we were over 101. 101, 199 as of right now on CoinMarketCap. So
it's gaining steam. I think I saw, one of the ETFs, they gobbled up 5,500 BTC or something like that yesterday. I mean, establishing a strong base every time. So
yeah. Haddy's calling for a dip, by the way.
Oh yeah. It's so hard to predict.
The numbers aren't strong in the economy, so I think as much as the euphoria there is, we need to have a drop off for people to buy in, and then it'll go. So it always happens. You have paper hands.
Getting close to being due for a cool off. Mike, where were you when what were you doing when it hit 103? You were sleeping too.
He was wearing that.
He was picking out his outfit.
I was designing a website for a meme coin for Stacks.
A new meme coin or a meme coin that exists?
An existing meme coin that's just about to launch their new suite of attention utilities.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Is it oh well?
I'll give you a hint. They're not heliosexuals.
They're not heliosexuals.
Heliosexuals are people enamored with a heliocentric universe.
Oh. Okay.
They believe that this. Yes, there you
Flat
go.
Earth.
Haddy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the cue there,
Thank you.
Hattie.
I was waiting for everyone. I'm going like, nobody's getting this. Like,
Well, I'm like, what? Well, because flat Earth doesn't. Flat Earth, are they exclusive concepts? A heliocentric universe and a flat Earth? I'm not sure that that's actually exclusive.
I think the spiciest relationships are between these forces, you know? It's a lot like America. Democrats, Republicans, flat Earth, round Earth. We can coexist economically, even though we don't look at the world the same way.
It's true. It's true. Although it's really hard to explain all those satellites that we use to communicate with each other if the Earth is
Oh.
flat.
No, they're just following the firmament. You amateur.
The birds are robots.
Yeah.
Now you understand.
Birds aren't real, guys. Remember.
But who programmed the robots?
I made a joke once before. One of the things that I like to do for fun is I'd fly my drone up around the subdivision at night and it has a little spotlight it shines down. And people just kind of go outside and they're like, oh, what is that? Because it's not the, I kind of live in a rural part. So.
You could have your
Oh,
own
so you
UFO
can-
TikTok where you hallucinate yourself, you know? People start believing there's UFOs above you.
They might be up there.
Actually, we secretly, but not so secretly, had disclosure a couple weeks back, but it went like largely under the radar.
Isn't it funny that UFOs came into existence before $100,000 Bitcoin? Like the aliens came first, technically.
Well, disclosure.
well, there's
They were there.
There's an interview, if anyone's interested in it, about the guy who ran it on Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO. So if you have a look at that, one of the episodes, the guy actually runs through it all. About aliens.
So just before we started this show, I just wanted to mention this to kind of set the tone. So Gensler is no longer the Security Exchange Commission chair. We now have a new Securities Exchange Commission chair. His name is Paul Atkins. So naturally, in $100,000 Bitcoin world, I wonder if this new SEC chair is favorable to DeFi, everything that Alex is building, everything that we're kind of expecting, where cash becomes collateral, credit, and capital, collateral, and credit. So who is this Paul Atkins? So he is old enough to have worked at Cooper's Live brand, which became PwC. He went to Vanderbilt University. Right now, he's the chief executive of Potomac Global Partners. He was an SEC commissioner for Bush from 2002 to 2008. Remember what happened between 2002 and 2008? Another crisis. Now, the interesting thing about him, and it's why they're saying he's crypto positive, is that he's the co-chair of the Token Alliance. So imagine that the new SEC chair is coming in from being the co-chair of the Token Alliance. That's as of yesterday. They're
What is
announcing
the
this.
Token Alliance?
I think it's representing DEI and minorities in the workplace. No, No, that's. I couldn't help myself. Sorry.
Binks says that it's he likes how you say we have a new SEC chair
Oh yeah.
when you're, you know,
Look, Canada needs the Iron Dome just as much as you guys. You know what I mean? Power to the, you know? I'm North American centric more than geocentric, or, you know?
Binks doesn't agree. He says you're out.
Oh, he says I'm out?
Well, not really. He just implied it. I'm reading into it.
Oh man, what do we have to do to get in? I mean, I look like
No.
you let me in from the southern border, like guys that look like me? Why can't we come in from the northern border?
Is the northern border open, but the southern's closed, or is the northern closed and the
actually-
southern's open?
They used
you
to both
imagine?
be open.
Can you imagine that the U.S.
We were
opened-
actually a free society one time.
the U.S. opened the southern border and keeps the northern border closed? Can you imagine how Canadians feel?
Well, I think when people wear leopard skin, you scare people.
That's right. I should shave, take off the chain, and put on proper adult clothes. But I guess these are adult clothes, right, Alex? You have a hoodie on, and you work at a fancy DeFi place. How is that possible? Shouldn't you have on like a straitjacket suit, like it's 1987?
I feel like I did my time when I was in Goldman, wearing the business casual and a tie as a collar. And so, yeah, I'm very happy to move away from all that towards comfort wear, and plan on keeping it that way until such a time as it behooves one to dress up in the typical garb as might be
Yeah.
expected to pitch
Now
to a
the-
boardroom or something. But,
These days, if you wear a suit, you might be like on the outside. You know what I mean? Like, what's that FBI agent doing here? You know, kind of thing.
yeah, I think it's kind of a thing. Like imagine seeing like a major crypto guy or founder wearing like the American Psycho type,
Exactly.
like a business suit. It's just something doesn't sit right about it. Like you don't trust it.
So I just
Yeah.
want to let you know, like, I probably know the least about Alex than everyone here. And I just did some ChatGPT research on it. So if you don't mind, I have a bunch of questions. But again, we can take this any direction.
Yeah, anytime. Happy to discuss any topic, guys.
I have a question, Michael, before we get into the serious things. Is it a onesie or is it a hoodie?
Oh, I don't want to know the truth.
I don't know. I'm just checking before we start because
I want to pretend it's a onesie.
me too. Because that'd be
Have you all ever heard of Snuggies?
Oh yeah, I remember the commercial. Yeah.
It could be one of those.
Commercial.
I remember those things. They were those late night infomercials.
Yeah, it's like
if
it's a blanket with sleeves. I mean,
Yeah.
If you want to find out, tune in for onlystacks.ai.
What is that?
Onlystacks.ai is a domain registered by Rocky. That's coming soon.
so like
With a
OnlyFans
bot
but
trap?
for crypto.
Is there a bot trap section?
Onlystacks.ai. Coming soon.
So you're not going to tell us today.
No.
Haddy gets it. Maybe you can do another handshake to explain it to everyone. But yeah, Hadan, is it?
Yeah.
I want to say that right. So, I probably doesn't look like it, but I come from the traditional finance world. I held my licenses here in Canada, right?
Okay.
From mutual funds and stuff like that. So, when I was doing research on Alex, DeFi has always been kind of an amorphous word that I didn't really know what it means. Like, what does Web3
Right.
mean? What does DeFi mean? I don't know. It's something where people make money sometimes. It's
Right.
in my head.
Sometimes
Right? And so I thought, okay, who used to do this work? Lehman Brothers. Oh, no. We don't have that anymore. Okay,
Yep.
who else used to do this work? Credit Suisse. No. We don't have them anymore either. Right?
right.
Is that why we have DeFi? Because of things like Lehman Brothers and like Credit Suisse and like places that fall over with other people's money at stake?
Yeah, actually, in fact, Alex, I guess we're a bit unique in that our founding team is mostly like white shoe financial quants. So, our co-founders, Chanda Shu, she was a managing director at Credit Suisse and at Morgan Stanley. Rachel Yu, Goldman Sachs. Chan Ah, our CTO, Goldman Sachs. Myself, Goldman Sachs. And having doing a bit of the communications and doing a lot of the prep for these interviews, when Chanda is asked kind of what was one of the things that cued you into crypto, she talks about watching the financial meltdown, first row seats in 2008, and just realizing that this system we believed was rock solid was held up by toothpicks. And just the lack of the lack of information transparency, how opaque the banks were, the institutional bloat. It's just I think especially if you've worked in it, you realize how antiquated it is. That we still had T+2, T+3 settlements, and front, middle, back office, and I mean look at the number of employees that Tether has in their profits versus Goldman Sachs or Bank of America.
They're the ultimate exponential organization.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it sort of became clear that the writing was on the wall that I think the sort of biggest driver of human culture is technology. That blockchain technology is more secure, it's more efficient, it's more transparent. And it's just a matter of, do you want to be early or do you want to be late? And we opted on the side of being early. We've been in the space for 3 years now, before ordinals, before Bitcoin DeFi was sexy. It was just Arcadico before us on Stacks. And we're here for the long term. We're here for the next decade, for the next 20 years.
I heard that technology allows humans to evolve faster than their biology allows.
Yes,
Is that right?
I'm an adherent to that.
Okay.
I guess that you're getting a bit into like transhumanism. So I guess to
like
quote a bit from
evolutionary ecology with stem cells and silicon. Guns,
I
germ,
guess
steel, and silicon.
right. Well, I guess something to. I mean, I think the way I like to frame it is that every single problem our species has ever encountered, we've solved through technology.
Right.
We were predated upon by saber-toothed tigers. We came across the technology of spears and sticks. It's a hard living being a hunter-gatherer. We came up with the technology of agriculture. We came up with a technology for fire, for wheels, for steel plows. And if you look at it, it's almost the ultimate hockey stick graph of human technology over time.
Right.
Just in the past 2 years, the way that technology has exponentially shot through the roof is unprecedented. So if you were to extrapolate that from where we are now into the future, that's when you start to get into these discussions of like, are we nearing a singularity somewhere in like 2029, 2035, where either we have godlike machine intelligences, or we start to become these cyborg organisms where our biology is enhanced through technologies in ways that we can't even understand. And so I think
the
we're
ledger onto your wrist and pay
Yeah,
with
yeah.
your ledger. The last thing I want to ask you before I let others take over is, it's funny you mentioned your finance background, because I started out my career recruiting actuaries, and when I read the docs, like the thesis and everything was actually, it got to the actuarial part and how you built your algorithms for even risky pairs in light of other protocols. So that makes sense that you have a finance background, because the docs led with that kind of mathematical approach, and explicitly, I was surprised at how honest you were about, most people in Web 2 would hide most of the information that you shared in the docs about how you're doing the calculation. So
Right.
that makes sense now that you all have a financial background.
Yeah. So, well, thank you. Appreciate it.
I have a question. Would
Yeah,
one
yeah.
of you do because just on the topic you're talking about, would one of you do a Neuralink one day if they open that up to the public?
Depends
All
on
right.
how much I needed to, right? Like if I were like the guy that they've given it to now, who's quadriplegic, but now he can play. He was playing Civilization, I think I saw him or something. He was playing.
I saw Mario Kart too.
Yeah, he was playing. So you know what? I think that that's a great advancement, but I can appreciate. Would I do it if I didn't need that kind of assistance to have a fulfilling life or to have more diverse experiences? Probably not, but I see something like that being widespread is probably going to take generations.
What about
unless the people that have it suddenly become way more capable and successful than the people that don't have it? And then it becomes, well, everyone should have it, and why are only some people having it, right?
Well, what about on your deathbed? Wouldn't it be a good way to go out?
Well, why is it going to prevent me from going out?
That's the premium plan.
That's where digital twinning comes in, that you'll have a mapped version of yourself that would then live forever in a 3D world that your family could then interact with you. So that would be...
Buy now and you get 2 consciousness for the price of 1.
So I kind of have... You're building one of those for me, aren't you, Michael?
Yes, digital peace, love music.
There's actually a digital peace, love music AI being built. That sounds kind of like me. I don't know how the conversational piece goes yet.
Well, what's funny is, quick tidbit, 11 Labs used to just be for cloning voices. You guys have used 11 Labs, right, to clone a voice? They now added the whole chat with a body of knowledge functionality within 11 Labs. So you used to have to do it separately. Now you can do it all within 11 Labs. Create a chatbot based on Peace Love's voice, based on all the shows like this he's having. And so now we can do autonomous updates and stuff like that. It's pretty wild.
So pretty soon it'll be running the news show for me.
You're out, man.
This could be the first test. You don't even know.
So it's an agent? You're building an agent?
Yeah, so typically to build an agent, you wanted to get a body of knowledge trained on your doctrine and then cloning your voice. Now, the cloning your voice was provided by 11 Labs, but we used to have to go to BotPress or VoiceFlow to do the chatbot configuration or use like LangChain or something like that. Now, 11 Labs, who does the voice cloning, has added in the body of knowledge chat with doctrine right into it.
So is it running on a RAG, or are you actually training a specific agent, or is it ragging it?
They're probably using RAG in the background, I would imagine. They would have to for performance. Yeah.
I'm waiting for you to be like, this is actually the bot right here. That's not Peace Love.
Oh man.
I
That's
would
the
hope
ultimate test.
a little bit more hair on. Can I request the bot have a little bit more younger hairline than I have now?
Well, the thing is, I never noticed you had a man bun.
You've never noticed?
I
You never saw
did
the
you guys
never
know
saw
that?
the hair down episode?
I never saw that.
There's a morning show that I did with GPSC that I did with my hair down, and I actually explained the so many years ago now when my daughter was still young, she had very, very long hair, went down past her butt. She had these long braids, and she was known through the school for having the super long hair. And one day we're having a discussion, and she liked the idea of me having long hair with her. I had kind of stopped cutting my hair, and it started growing long. So I haven't had an actual haircut in. She's almost 13. She was about 5 or 6 when we had this conversation, and I stopped cutting my hair. So it's been about 6 or 7 years since I have cut my hair in any way. It's very, very long. Actually, I'm not going to take it out right now. I might keep having a conversation, and maybe we'll talk.
You ever thought about doing cornrows? Like Snoop Dogg?
I have thought about it, actually.
Yeah. West Side.
But she actually
Right, the AI version.
Yeah, oh yeah, the AI version can have all the hair that I can't have.
Just comfy UI away. There's a workflow away.
So we're just waiting on Aiden.
That's it. Pixel Labs. So if you don't mind me asking you a few more questions about Alex.
Yeah.
So, because again, I spent most of my time in the past 3 months working on like the AI side of Stacks and creating chatbots and stuff like that. But now that I'm out of it, I'm getting calls from people I knew from my finance days back in 2006, and they're interested in understanding this world, and I wonder why. Right?
Yeah.
Right? And so
Yeah, the same.
I started trying to think about how to explain it to this type of stakeholder, which is essentially every purchase kind of feels like a capitulation at this point for a lot of people. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
fuck,
absolutely.
I guess I have to buy this now, right? So now they're looking to say, look, if I have to own Bitcoin, how do I address these 4 C's of credit? Of value: cash, capital, collateral, credit, right? And so to me, Alex represents the ability to turn Bitcoin into collateral, into capital, into credit. Am I thinking about that right?
Yes,
That's
no,
simple?
that's
Okay.
absolutely spot on. The idea is to, this kind of takes me back to, right after our mainnet when we were talking, a bit like in vaguer terms. But really, because I think for, towards a lot of the public, when we were kind of in 2021, onboarding people onto, like how to understand Alex, we give these kind of like ABCs, which would be, step A, to understand that Bitcoin is the ultimate form of money, and just, walk people through why that is the case. B would be how Stacks makes Bitcoin programmable and the significance of that. Really what that means, that you're going now from just money towards finance. And then that C, that Alex is a collection of these smart contracts on Stacks that turns Bitcoin into a financial ecosystem. And I think when you bring that all together, it's when you kind of look at, I think, the sort of popular mentality is kind of like cash is king, right? You look at the total amount of USD in circulation in terms of paper money, you're maybe looking at what, like 30-40 trillion dollars. Now look at just the amount of derivatives alone that are on the books, the amount that's in the equity markets, the amount that's in all these different debt obligations. Quadrillions. And so that's why it's like finance is something so much bigger than the actual money system, because finance is this, like, it's like putting like a nitro boost engine in really what money does. Like, you don't get the modern world just by, like pocketing money. Like if a popcorn company wants to double their production, they don't save their profits for 20 years to do it. They, borrow, leverage, they use all these financial instruments to accelerate that by 10, by 20, by 100x. And let's bring the tools that we've already built into this TradFi system into crypto, into the DeFi world. And that's what we've been working on building the sort of primitives for, with DEXs, with borrow lends, with cross-chain swaps, with farming and staking. And I guess in the long term, when we look ahead, like what is the ultimate use case of what we're building now, is because we do believe increasingly that these hundreds of trillions of dollars in real world assets, we're going to see we're going to see them tokenized. We're going to see them move on chain, because that is the superior technology for the storage and transfer of wealth. And when those assets now want to transact in the most efficient, the most secure, the most decentralized way possible, they're going to come to Bitcoin DeFi. And that's where what we've been building on Alex finds really its ultimate use cases in enabling and facilitating that. So that's, kind of zooming out to big picture, but that's our grand ambition, I'd say.
Yeah, because what I'm seeing on the ground floor is the financialization of communication through meme communities.
Yes. Mhm.
And I'm seeing even them creating a flywheel of value
Yep.
at that ground level. And what excites me is that I don't think these communities are going anywhere. You know, the Beyonce fan club is always going to exist. They're always going to transact expressions with each other. And there are going to be communities that financialize that ecosystem. And so now at this point, it's going to be hard for anyone to argue that these markets don't add value to the population because of their liquidity.
Absolutely.
Versus the traditional.
Yeah. A great quote that reminds me of is one of our advisors, Rolf Hofer. He's written some books on tokenomics, but he has this great line that people think that crypto revolutionizes finance, when the real kicker is that crypto revolutionizes culture. You know, culture has been the exchange of value between people through time immemorial. And now you're going from these hierarchical cultural structures of creator-follower to these, horizontal, lateral, these networks, these webs of communities that are constantly expanding, creating, exchanging value. And because they do that, they're that much more robust. You know, it isn't because, X artist dies that now his music is lost. You know, when you have that decentralized community driving something, it can survive the loss of a key member because other nodes will arise to take its place. And so what we're seeing live on the network in Bitcoin, we're seeing that translate increasingly live into culture, into human communities and networks. Meme coins are, an inception of that, but it's going to become so much broader and so much vaster. And it's really incredible to think about, meme coin or DeFi communities that in the future will create, movies or TV shows or novels or intellectual properties as this collective whole with these tokens exchanging values between these networks. And so, I think that's what you want to just keep an eye on and what is coming on the horizon. So, it's going to take some fits and starts and stops to get there, but it's coming.
So my concern with that, or I guess the thing that I'm mostly concerned about is where regulatory comes in and what people can do with this IP and or how you can incentivize holders and stuff like that. And what you're, it should be open and allowed, as long as everyone's consensually engaging, it should be allowed. And as long as it's not hurting anybody, literally hurting anybody. But I don't know that that's the key, that the technology is going to be there. The communities and the intention is going to be there. The people will be there that will want to do this. I don't know if the atmosphere, it seems like we're in the right trajectory now, but how do we make sure that trajectory continues and actually goes the right way? I think we need more lobbying out of the broader crypto.
I think they just hired the number one possible lobbyist as the SEC chair.
Right.
Honestly.
Right, but now is the time. Right. But we don't have enough. There's not enough to get the legislative piece through.
You don't think so?
Well, I'm not sure.
I think Bitcoin is the one asset both Democrats and conservatives hold. If you could get them to agree on one thing, wouldn't you say, of all the issues?
Well, so I don't look at it as party versus party. I look at it as who's pulling the strings behind the parties, because that's really where it happens.
It's Doge now. Just saying.
Well, I was just going to say.
Oh, is it? Doesn't that almost seem? I don't mean to cut you off, Waggy, but doesn't the Doge thing almost seem too silly to actually be real?
It could be, but Kash Patel seems kind of serious.
Yeah, that's I'm all about that one. Tulsi Gabbard and her assets.
Watch out for the dark coconut.
I was just gonna say, I guess it was like 5 or 6-8 months ago. They did try pushing some legislation through, and I want to say it passed House and Senate, but it still got vetoed by Biden. So I think it's definitely possible to get a whole bunch of things, to go through and get a whole bunch of momentum. It's just, the different administration that kind of stopped it last, because, to get past the House and the Senate, that's pretty, across the aisle to me. Just one force was stopping it. So
it's just a matter of, so the people that, because they knew they could bottleneck it at the administration level, they didn't put as much effort into stopping it at the legislative level.
The other
is one way to potentially look at it. Don't assume that every battle's already won, is what I'm saying, because we have a lot of there. It feels really good right now.
The only thing is they had Bitcoin Nashville being in Texas where
Nashville's
Citadel,
in
Tennessee, right? Well, Texas, it's all South America to me.
far.
Whatever. You know what I mean? Do they sound different? Right?
6-7 hours.
Nashville, Texas, right? They're having it in the South, which is creating their own stock exchange, the Texas Stock Exchange by BlackRock and Citadel. And so, I look at the South even creating their own semiconductors and, fab units. The South is becoming an economic powerhouse. And I think they want to balance the power that the New York Stock Exchange had. I think that's, unsaid.
Sure,
but
it's
obvious.
actually it is a decentralization event.
Yeah, at least not a soft schism.
They also have energy security down there. So that's a big plus for, if we're looking at California has green energy that isn't always running, but down in Texas, they've got the burn off. There's lots of people investing there. Same as our friends from Bitcoin Live. Who's it again? Peace.
It's
Expeditions. Quantum
Expeditions.
Quantum
right?
Expeditions.
It's Quantum Expeditions and Quantum Economics.
Yeah, economics.
Expeditions is actually the mining.
So I think I have the question now. I didn't know it was this yet, but what you said made me think of it. So there's always been this phrase of hyper Bitcoinization, and a lot of companies have failed betting on $100,000 Bitcoin without 100,000 Bitcoin happening, because this was supposed to happen a few years ago. Remember 69,000 or whatever it was, right?
Definitely was supposed to happen.
And then, we see Three Arrows Capital and kind of everything going the way they are. But in a world, which is a different world, where we've run out of quantitative easing options, let's say, I think everyone knows that, right? For Alex, hyper Bitcoinization would mean that all real world asset tokens are either on layer 1 or layer 2. Is that right?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So in an extreme scenario, if we
Right.
play it out, right, what the hyper Bitcoinizes we're talking about it in a world where, if hyper Bitcoinization means anything, it means that real world assets are tokenized in Bitcoin or Bitcoin derivatives.
Correct. Yes.
And in that world, Alex allows people to turn these assets or Bitcoin itself from cash to collateral to capital or credit. Is that right?
That's right. I would say, I think a really, one of the easy descriptions of finance is that it connects people who have capital but don't need it right now with people who need capital but they don't have it at the moment. And so where those two come together in the decentralized way is Alex.
So are you saying you're the newest Lombard Street?
I would say, I'll be hesitant. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver.
Okay.
But I'll say that I'd say we've got a pretty ambitious team, and the kind of scope of our plans, isn't based on this cycle or the next cycle. We're really thinking of building something that'll be a significant public institution going into the future. And
capital is a wagon way through the air.
Exactly.
I guess is the thesis. Yeah.
Yeah.
So touching on how you ended that off, Hadan, saying public,
Right.
does that mean there's something coming in the future when you say
You
public?
got that?
Well, I would say public in the sense that that like who owns Bitcoin, right? There isn't a CEO. There isn't a marble building, with 50 stories with the sign Bitcoin at the top and the president sitting on it. Similarly with like the Stacks network, it's a decentralized network. And similarly, when we're building, like Alex with these decentralized smart contracts, the goal would be full decentralization and the transition into a full DAO structure in the future. Is something that we've long had in mind, and that we're progressively working towards. So progressive decentralization, I think, is really one of the key points of our roadmap.
Okay, so and then if you're saying you're moving to DAO, will that mean that you're going to use Alex token, or you're going to create a new token for voting rights?
No, so Alex token will remain the governance and utility token of the Alex ecosystem. Yes.
Okay, cool. That's good for everyone to know that you're building up to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's our long-term vision for sure, but it's a team of very capable and highly dedicated people, working on it, and really. Whether it was through the sort of bear market of 2022, or now that we're entering into this, potentially a super cycle. And I think hopefully if things play out as planned, I think we might be entering into the next 4 years, maybe a golden age of crypto. But sort of regardless, we are firm on that sort of thesis, and we're going to continue building, the infrastructure that facilitates that happening, so that when the rest of the world or culture catches up, we have everything ready and waiting for them to make the most of it.
And then going back to real world assets, so you're going to start pivoting towards real world assets and the tokenization of real world assets?
Well, I think right at the moment, our focus is more on infra. And so, like, for example, we have Lisa, our liquid staking platform, where we have liquid staking for Stacks. We have liquid staking for Alex token. It's kind of like, it's very similar to Lido, but on Stacks.
So can you unpack that liquid staking just for the uninitiated that might be watching?
Sure.
Yeah.
And so for example, like to take the example of like a Lido on Ethereum, when you stake Ethereum, typically when you stake, you are locking up your liquidity in the smart contract for a period of time. And while that liquidity is locked up, you don't have any access to it. It's in the vault, it's kind of untouchable. So with liquid staking, you have a representation of that staked asset that now so instead of now you have like staked ETH, or for example, let's take stacks that is locked up in stacking versus Lee stacks from Lisa, which is a liquid stacks. That now this is stacks that the principal itself is locked up in stacking, but the token that you hold in your wallet you can use towards DeFi applications, like using it as collateral, or if you want to exit that position, you can do it through a DEX swap. And so you're sort of like maximizing your capital efficiency through liquid staking.
So liquid staking allows you to turn a term deposit in blockchain into a financial instrument.
Exactly. That's exactly correct. A yield generating liquid financial instrument.
Fantastic.
Yes. Yep. And so in terms of like just as far as like real world assets, or how we might be like dipping a toe in that direction, soon we're going to be launching like a LIA BTC, so liquid stake BTC, where I don't know if you guys are familiar with what Babylon is going to be doing soon with staked Bitcoin, where they use the Bitcoin that's staked towards securing proof of stake chains. The rewards then that Babylon receives, they convert back into Bitcoin, and that goes back to the sort of the Bitcoin stakers.
Jeez.
So Yeah, so we're taking that process but making it liquid. So you'll through the Lisa platform, you'll have Leah BTC, and another would be, for example, like Leah USDT, where you might have a stable coin now, like SUSDT that we have on Alex, which is wrapped tether from Ethereum, where you can put it into a liquid staking protocol, where and this is still a bit in flux, but you could, for example, receive the returns that come from real world yields, where that USDT, that dollar amounts can be staked in treasuries, and then those treasury returns are brought on chain and delivered to the liquid USDT holders.
My final question is, and this is for you and Peace, actually, because
Sure.
Peace, it's your industry. How far are we away from someone using Bitcoin as collateral to engage in a real estate transaction?
We're a ways away regulatory wise, because there's a lot of, where did it come from? No, like KYC on real estate transactions is actually bigger than even just getting into an exchange. You have to know, they have to source the funds. You cannot just come buy a house with money that, it depends, I guess. It depends on the platforms that build it out, but there's a lot of there's a lot of regulatory involved in the mortgage process in the US for good reason.
So I'm just thinking about a world where someone has an amount staked, right, on Alex for a term over 30 years, for example, or whatever amount, and that is recognized as collateral for a purchase, or to increase the favorable terms of a purchase in a real estate transaction.
It sounds great.
Oh, Wagme, you had your hand up, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so right when I got out of college, I worked in the mortgage industry for a couple of years. I was a loan processor, and then I also, a year or two as a GFE specialist, good faith estimate, which is one of the disclosure documents. And, typically whenever it came to verification, they wanted to see like 6 months of bank statements showing that you had those funds in an account. That was a while back, and that industry changes a lot. So I'm sure it has. But also on the topic, I want to say that I was watching, I guess it was CNBC Squawk Box, that show, and they had a guest on that was actually talking about they did a loan on a property, and whatever that equity was, they were able to secure some type of Bitcoin in conjunction with it. And, therefore, whenever they look at it from a risk perspective, the risk of the property, and then, it could be potentially, the way to mitigate the risk on the property because of, how they were crunching out the return on an annual perspective that Bitcoin has been doing. So I know there's a lot of people, cooking in that area of the ecosystem. So
I think you're more likely to see. I think you're more likely to see AI real estate agents before you see Bitcoin-backed financing.
I mean, if we're talking about real-world assets, what could be a bigger real-world asset than the house that you sit in?
Your house is actually not an asset; it's a liability.
Damn, I thought you were supposed to sell me a house, Peace. It's a terrible sales pitch.
You need a house. I don't have to sell you a house. You need a house. I help you not get screwed when you buy a house. That's what I do.
Another interesting topic, or kind of in the same realm. I was with one of our kids the other day, and we went to the card shop. He was looking at baseball cards, football cards, and stuff like that. And I saw some of the brands had like a little QR code on the packs now that said, "Hey, you scan this." I don't know if it was to give them access to a marketplace, so if you wanted to resell that card, or if it was for like I guess it would probably also be like a digital version of that card too. So that's I thought that was pretty cool. And I'm interested to see how that stuff plays out in the collectibles world.
Pokemon dexes every game has a DEX. Like I was talking to the gamers on the team. All these games have non-real world assets, I guess you would call it, and players trade these instead of money with each other. I had no idea.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, there was. I think it was it 2 weeks ago, Peace? Maybe 3 weeks ago. I sent you for the morning show that in South Africa they actually did the first purchase of a house with Bitcoin. So they're now actually allowing people to buy a house with Bitcoin.
So a lot of the people who
you can buy a house with Bitcoin. We did a Doge. Not we, my office, but in my state, there was a Doge transaction in. I think it was in mid to late 21 or maybe 20, whatever it was. The price of Doge went down. It was 21. So the price of Doge went down. It was right after Doge had peaked, but it wasn't finalized in Doge. It was just, there was like some kind of, it was more of like a gimmick than anything else. I would accept, you can buy a Bitcoin, you can buy a house Bitcoin with Bitcoin now. It would be like buying cash as long as the buyer is accepting that. But financing with Bitcoin as collateral is more complicated than that.
Well, I'm really interested to talk more about how do you, so when you, are you going to also have SBTC, or is it just going to be native Bitcoin that we need to put in, or are you going to be doing something at SBTC as well?
So once SBTC is released, where it's definitely going to feature on Alex, on the DEX, and really across our sort of platforms. I think as SBTC potentially is relatively slept on in terms of its full potential, because I think there's so many versions of wrapped Bitcoin already that it almost seems like one more in an alphabet soup. When you sort of dig down into the sort of tech behind SBTC, it's really pretty brilliant in being and having this open dynamic federation of signers, and it will be the most trust minimized representation of Bitcoin on any smart contract chain. So if I'm a Bitcoin holder, it makes vastly more sense to me, if I bother to do the research of reading a white paper and looking at the operations, to go to SBTC instead of WBTC, for example.
By a wide margin.
By a wide margin, yeah.
As a noob,
sure.
Imagine I don't know anything about SBTC. I hear everyone talking, SBTC this, gonna change the world, bring back the Garden of Eden. What's SBTC? Like, I understand Sachs, layer 2, increasing transaction tied to the Bitcoin blockchain. Why is SBTC the biggest, most expected thing on Stacks right now?
Sure. I guess to take a quick crack at it, it's because if you think of Bitcoin itself, Bitcoin on the layer 1, right? You can't, Bitcoin. It's a closed environment. It isn't a smart contract blockchain. So it's not like you can just take Bitcoin and using a Bitcoin wallet, click a button and put that Bitcoin on Ethereum. There has to be some sort of wrapping solution to express that Bitcoin on these other blockchains, whether it's Ethereum, Solana, Stacks, etc. How do you do that? These are the solutions that have been utilized so far. One is a centralized custodian or wrapping agent. So say like with WBTC, there's a central body that will sort of wrap. But now that BTC, you're sort of relying on potentially like a single point of failure, where if that centralizer fails or runs off with the money, you don't have any recourse because you sent your Bitcoin to their Bitcoin wallet. There have been other networks that have used, say, like a closed federation. So say you have 12 or 60 privileged signers. And so instead of there being just one point of failure, now maybe you have a couple dozen who have that authority to sign the Bitcoin pegging in and pegging out of the network. but it's also a fixed group of people. And now you have to wonder, what if, 30 of those people, 31, conspire to do a 51% attack and they run off with hundreds of billions of dollars in funds? So then you get to SBTC, where you're going to have an open, dynamic federation of potentially thousands of signers of the network. And so you're creating this most trust minimized solution by which you can move Bitcoin from the L1 to a smart contract chain, and from the smart contract chain back to Bitcoin in the most decentralized way that you can with Bitcoin in its current state.
Are you saying that SBTC can be used to buy assets from other chains?
So with SBTC, if you have Bitcoin and you move it into SBTC, there will then be bridges to bring SBTC from Stacks to these other smart contract chains. And there, yes, you can buy assets. And that's, a part of what Alex does, as well as we have Xlink, which is a cross-chain bridge.
So are you saying SBTC, the thesis of SBTC is to become that peer-to-peer cash?
I think the thesis for SBTC is to become the sort of easiest or most decentralized on and off ramp of Bitcoin onto smart contract chains, where it can fully utilize its programmability.
Sounds like peer-to-peer cash to me, cross-chain.
Yeah, I guess, I guess Bitcoin itself on the L1, in a sense, is already peer-to-peer cash. But if we want to turn that into peer-to-peer Binance that uses Bitcoin and built on Bitcoin, SBTC is the keystone piece in making that happen. That's how it was.
That
And that ship just passed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong. What we have is, if we take Ethereum, for instance sake, and we compare it to Ethereum, we had Polygon build out on top, which made it more convenient and quicker and cheaper to move the underlying asset from the layer 1 across the chain. In Bitcoin terms, we have Lightning, which is what everyone's using at the moment. But Lightning hasn't got the programmability that SBTC is going to have, and the way that it can dovetail into lots of other chains. So that's what Lightning has. It can move really fast and it's cheap, but SBTC is going to open up a world of opportunity it is really the rocket fuel. It's going to be the rocket fuel for Bitcoin moving on to layer 2, because we'll be able to plug it into everything.
Exactly. And that because Lightning, it doesn't have a global ledger. It isn't a smart contract network. Stacks is, the fully expressible smart contract network that can do any of these applications that you have on any other smart contract chain. And if you can now plug Bitcoin into that in the most trust minimized way possible, that's when, a frequent talking point of Munib's is that you look at the market cap of Ethereum, and about 26-30% of that is involved in DeFi. Now you look at the market cap of Bitcoin, which is currently 5x, 6x what Ethereum is.
Yeah.
The amount of Bitcoin that's involved in DeFi is less than 1%. So there's a huge asymmetric opportunity there to bring Bitcoin into DeFi.
So who's doing options?
So right now, who's doing options?
Yeah, is anyone doing
financial
options
instruments?
on Alex?
Well, options are, I guess that's, another iteration away. But no, believe me, it's something that we've sort of had in mind. We have had a borrow lend model that uses the Black-Scholes equations and all. But the thing is with what's sort of missing to sort of fully have DeFi options is that you need market makers, right? You need options buyers and options sellers. And if you don't have that in a high enough amount, you have these very illiquid markets which don't operate all that well. And so
wouldn't those be created 100,000 Bitcoin? Wouldn't that be the first option?
Well, I guess once we have SBTC and we have that liquidity on Stacks, we have that awareness and that attention of market makers, then that's the next logical step. But it's kind of like we have to crawl before you walk before you
Forget
run.
about all that.
Yeah.
Singularity. It's all happening. The future's racing at us.
Believe it, it's gonna happen.
Jump
it's
in.
gonna happen fast. It'll be quick, and we'll be ready for it when it does.
Look, DEI 1, the token guy is in charge of the SEC. Who would have thought it, right?
Well, let's do it. Yeah, like that's what I mean. So I mean, based on what we've seen so far of the potential administration hires, is there a strong case to be made that we might be entering in these next 4 years into what we'll look back upon as the golden age of crypto?
Yes.
For some.
Yeah. For some.
And the reason I asked the real estate question is a lot of people are going to look for the most tax-friendly way to realize their Bitcoin appreciation. And I imagine that real estate is one of them. That's why I ask.
Yeah, that there is. I mean, a lot of it. You have you're going to have this demand for borrowing against Bitcoin, right? Where you can submit your Bitcoin as a collateral on a DeFi platform. You can borrow stablecoin. That stablecoin you turn into dollars. The dollars you use to buy real estate, and so you do have that mechanism for sure. And on Stacks we have Zest. It's something that we're potentially looking into the future for Alex as well to like bring back borrow lend. And so so all of these are definitely in the works. But yes, because again, if you have a lot of Bitcoin and say you want to buy a boat, you don't want to sell it and have that tax event and not hold Bitcoin. It makes much more sense to borrow against it and then use that stable coin and pay those funds back in the future, given what the market interest is.
Have your cake and borrow against the cake you haven't eaten yet.
Right, exactly. Because just as when you were describing buying a house using Bitcoin. Well, if you look at how how do Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk oftentimes buy these mansions, they're not necessarily cashing out their stock to do it, right? They're going to a bank. They're probably putting like 1.5x the amount of their stock as collateral, and then they're borrowing against that at like what, a 4 or 5% rate. And so really that's what we want to be able to do on Bitcoin with Bitcoin DeFi.
Are you guys hiring is the question from the audience.
Well, we'll definitely reach out. We are looking to scale, but it's always talent is always hard to find, right? Because when it's a bear market, everyone looks to the next shiny thing. It doesn't want anything to do with crypto. And when it's a bull market, everyone is hiring at the same time. So we have a tight team, but talent is one of the most valuable assets any platform can acquire. So on Twitter, on our TGs, feel free to reach out and talk to us. Right.
Again, this is just for the people I know.
One hire hero.
That was Hero.
No, it's a serious question from the audience. So let me ask you this: if someone wanted to create a GitHub repo that would get the attention of your team, what kind of portfolio or what single project could any listener listening to this say, this is how you as talent could get our attention? Forget about resumes, forget about right?
I guess portfolios that show a track history of working in crypto, working in Web3, working in DeFi, flexibility with different languages, whether it be Clarity or Rust or Solidity. I guess that's what really makes you stand out, that you have that experience of being in the trenches, working with smart contracts, being familiar with audits. And our dev team can look at your GitHub repo, see your commits, and if it makes sense and it's a good fit, then you're aboard.
I would love to see the resumes of the future when it's like little skill sets. You see a bullet item, it's like working in the trenches.
Yeah, well, I think you have a project on Stacks that's talking about sort of like on-chain identities.
Right.
Where instead of having to do,
exactly. Haddy's actually a part of the team for Zero Authority.
Yeah, yeah, love the Zero Authority guys. We've been talking to them for years, and so just as you were saying that's what came to mind. That you'll have your online identity that is your resume. It's as easy as sending a QR code, and that links to all your GitHub repos, the past projects you've worked on, communities you've built, etc. All those things have immense
all your
value.
touch points will be there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Zero Authority was one of the first apps that I came across. Alex was one of the first a couple years ago that I saw, and then I saw Zero Authority.
Same.
And
For me,
I already started stacking my endorsement NFTs on there because I'm like, did I see this going somewhere?
Have you seen the new interface?
I've
It's not
seen
launched.
just on X, like the little sneak peeks.
Yeah, they partnered with Rocky and Red Blocks Labs to do the new interface. It's stunning. You guys are gonna love it.
Awesome.
And this
Great
is only the
team.
beginning.
What's that?
This is only the beginning. This is just the first step.
Yeah.
Hey, Peace Love, I do have to jump to my next call. So instead of just like dropping off, I want to say thank you.
Wagme, thank you so much for joining us, man. It was an absolute pleasure. You are always welcome on DeOrganized, and we will. When's your next X Space? I know we got a new series of Wagme X Spaces going on. When's your next one?
In 10 minutes.
Oh, you got a space coming up right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we won't linger too long.
Yeah. In 10 minutes, and then I think the next one is Monday with the Alex team, the CTO. So
Very good.
Rachel.
Yep.
Very good. So you guys should, if you're not following Mr. Wagme, you should be following Mr. Wagme and check out his spaces. Probably going to get scheduled for DeOrganized on there one time very soon as well. So looking forward to it. Thank you for coming on, brother. Have a great day. Respectful of everybody's time. We're an hour and 12 minutes in.
Thank you guys.
Happy to start wrapping up. This has been an awesome conversation. And thank you,
definitely,
Wagme. Why don't you guys give us a last word? I'll let Haddy go first.
You shouldn't let me go first because I still have questions. So I was really interested in what you were talking about when Michael came with the options. So your future projection is not only to pull people in from other chains and to help people get into other chains as far as liquidity. You're also looking at the option of onboarding institutions once SBTC hits to create the liquidity pools. Is that correct? So you can create that options environment?
That would be correct. That's a part of our long-term goal with SBTC and with collaborating with the Stacks Foundation to bring in those institutional investors and have that broad liquidity base that then facilitates all these other instruments that are built on top of that base layer.
Okay, and those companies that you're looking for are sort of the financial industries. So your first target market is going to be the custodians and the financial industries.
Yes. So, I mean, potentially really with SBTC and being able to produce an SBTC yield, I think any Bitcoin holder, given their particular risk appetite, why wouldn't they want to earn the yield on Bitcoin? That's really the holy grail of Bitcoin DeFi, is to have Bitcoin as a productive yield generating asset. And so, and SBTC is a key building block to making that happen, and as well as these sort of decentralized applications that Alex is building as well. And so I think really the sort of two halves come together to enable what we think of as like a Bitcoin economy or a Bitcoin financial system.
Okay, when you said earning yield, you're talking about people coming into the ecosystem that you're bringing in to earn yield, not necessarily us already sitting here. It's more about the people coming in to earn yield.
Right. It's about Bitcoiners who have Bitcoin that are currently stored in the cold wallet or just on chain, and it's just sitting there as a store of value, and making the case through SBTC and through Stack smart contracts for them to dip a toe in the pool, bring some of those Bitcoin, bring it in through this trust minimized way into SBTC, and now use it in these financial applications so you can generate a yield on that capital.
Yeah.
And that, yeah.
And how are you going to? What is the best way for people to identify the difference between native Bitcoin and paper Bitcoin? Because I can see an environment where paper Bitcoin starts playing a part.
Sure. And so when you say paper Bitcoin, do you mean these wrapped versions of Bitcoin that are on different blockchains?
I'm saying when people say that they have Bitcoin on paper, but they don't necessarily have it in the bank. So I'm looking for the checks and balances. Sorry, peace.
Well, that shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
because-
It shouldn't, but I'm just asking because I can see a scenario.
Who's buying paper Bitcoin?
Who's buying paper Bitcoin?
Well, careful. We're going to give scammers some ideas here, guys. You're going to have these infomercials.
Yeah, that's
Right.
the next step.
That's the reason why I'm trying to
Paper
distinguish
stacks.
between Alex as being a trusted partner and how do people like Michael and I who aren't adept like you and Peace, how do
Right.
we differentiate between who the best partners are to work with? So that's what I'm saying. It's going to be paper Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's nice about crypto is that there is this on-chain transparency, right? That, you know, if you were to come to Alex and say, I have paper Bitcoin, it would be like, well, what's the Bitcoin wallet address, and can you prove it by, here's a Bitcoin address, send, you know, 0.00, send one stat to prove that you are the signer for this wallet. And then if you do, that is proof that you actually do have custody of those Bitcoin funds. If not, then it doesn't mean anything. And then, you know, and if you were to come on Alex, even on our application, we have, you know, pages where you can look at the reserves. You can look at, you know, what wallet addresses, what is stored. You can look at every line of code that governs the smart contracts and how they interact. Now, you know, of course, as a tech savvy person, that might as well be, you know, Sanskrit to you. But for these financial institutions, they are capable of actually like hiring a developer who can do the analysis, who can do the auditing, and say that, you know, from what I've observed, yes, like, you know, all the numbers add up. You know, it's kind of like it's like doing math and double checking that the results all line up, and that at the end, the bottom line is the same on both columns. And so, you know, it's kind of like that saying, you know, with crypto, don't trust, verify. Or that, you know, a lot of what's nice about what crypto does is that we're moving away from, you know, really, if you think of legacy finance, it is at the end of the day a trust in people. And the reason why, you know, they wear like $1,000 suits and have these big buildings is because these are all signifiers of social trust. That these, you know, they have reputations that you can trust them. With crypto, you're moving your trust from people and institutions into trust in mathematics and computation. And, you know, so that's what my background being in physics, that's what really appeals to me about it, is that at the end of the day, you can now trust in the numbers, and the numbers and the mathematics don't lie, you know, versus what we saw in 2008 when the financial system would have completely collapsed had it not been for the, you know, infusion of the federal government and taxpayer bailout.
Cool. Thank you.
So
it's been
I mean,
super good.
I hope that answers the question. If not, let me know. I'm glad to try to.
No, I think the checks and balances works out. I mean, I can go and check all of those. It was more the fact of we're hitting the orange wave, and it's going to come, and it's not just one. We're going to have more than one sort of uptick, and more people are going to get involved into it. And it's understanding what do I need to look for to understand what is good, because the scammers or the people who are going to try and manipulate.
Right. No,
how do we differentiate between those, and what does it actually look like? So if Alex has a model, and then you have the other ones in our ecosystem that have models, this is what it looks like for a trusted partner.
Right. I think, you know, one is that it's the old saying, kind of, you have to do your own research to a certain degree, because you know, with crypto being decentralized, there isn't say, you know, like a CEO of Stacks where if someone sends you a link and phishes your private key, you can go and complain to them and they'll go and reverse that transaction.
Correct.
And so part of what you do is researching social media channels, is researching white papers, is coming to spaces as to this one. Is the team doxed? What are the background of these users? How many years has the project been alive? Is their GitHub active? What is their current on-chain activity? Talk to community leaders. And you basically have to, do and really like I guess dozens of points of potential contact before you kind of build that confidence. And once you do, start small. Don't put like $100,000 at once potentially. Start with like 100, see how that goes. Try then go to 1,000, go to 2,000, 10,000, and gradually build the confidence, understand on the deep level what's going on, and then you sort of build on from there. But you're right. It is a steep learning curve, and it is a space that's rife with scammers. So and even I think almost one of the biggest risks is really just like social engineering scams, where
Correct.
Someone will send you an email that looks like it might be an email that looks identical to one that Peace Love Music would send you, with a link that says, oh, like I found this like awesome new project. You click on the link, and potentially you open a malicious attachment that opens a back door into your system. And so there's a lot of ways. There are people who stake out discords for months until someone says I need help, and they're like, oh, let me kind of like virtually stream into your computer and help you figure this out. And in the meantime, they're like bringing down whatever their private keys are, and these other kind of scams.
Oh,
and
there are ones that are much easier than that.
Of course.
They crack
Or
your,
just like
crack
you've
your
won
eggs.
$10,000. Open this.
They offer you a job in your DMs of a ridiculous amount of money, and all you need to do is install a system that help. You need to install some software to work with them.
Yeah. You had the other day like Leather Wallet. There was a malicious Leather app that just had one switch of the letters in the name, but everything else was a clone of the Leather website. So you think you're restoring an actual Leather wallet when actually you're dumping your private keys into a scam site. So the kind of list is a bit endless. But so I think with any emergent technology, that's sort of going to be the case, and that's something that we refine and that we improve over time as the systems become better and more sophisticated. I mean, a good analogy would be when you look at the early days of the automobile versus now. I think in the early 1900s there were thousands of automobile companies in the U.S. and getting a car to run was really hard to do. You had to very oftentimes you were often opening the hood and replacing timing belts, and you had to be handy to do it. And it was so complicated. A lot of people were like, I'm going to stick with a horse and buggy because I understand horses. They've been around for millennia, So you're like, I'm skeptical of this whole automobile thing. This is going to be a niche little playground for the elite to have a fancy, loud toy, until, the force of technology is stronger than the cultural inertia. And then once it reaches that inflection point, you have the federal interstate highway systems built, you have the consolidation of automobile companies, and you have really modern technology with cars where you have vehicles that can run 100, 200,000 miles with minimal maintenance. And you have almost on any corner, maybe like a Jiffy Lube or an auto mechanic shop. And so I think similarly, we're going to see and it'll be probably vastly faster than the automobile, but this growth in infrastructure and service providers that make crypto as seamless an experience as possible, so that you can interact with it on your phone, maybe as intuitively as you do with Robinhood at the moment. Making things frictionless for users is one of the best ways to achieve mass adoption. And we haven't gotten there yet to that one killer crypto app, but with each iteration and with each bull wave and the waves of capital that come in and come out, we are getting better. And that's something that we can say as a definite for Bitcoin, as a definite for Stacks, as a definite for Alex. And with everything in place now we're starting to see the political system catch up, just with the administration that we have coming in as well. So the pieces are falling into place. They were going to anyway. It was inevitable. Just like it was inevitable that the car would outperform the horse in the long run. Crypto will outperform fiat currency. It will outperform traditional finance. This is an inevitability. It's just a question of time span. And I think with the administration we have coming in, we have that greatly accelerated. And, I think that's the best that you can really hope for, to see these things happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
Way more, but I'm going to hand over to Michael.
So I wrote this out so I wouldn't mess it up. So from what I see, Adam Smith said capital is a wagon way through the air. Keeping it in your pocket does nothing for the economy.
Yes.
He argued that unless it's invested, it's actually dead. It also reminds me that I think it's Ricardo that said value is determined at the exchange.
Yes.
So regardless of what you feel about Bitcoin, the exchange is actually the arbiter between all of our opinions.
That's correct.
Whether you're happy about how you invested or didn't invest. KC Imagination told me the 4 C's of money are cash, capital, collateral, and credit. The 4 C's of money are cash, capital, collateral, and credit. Decentralized finance is Bitcoin that is being used for cash, capital, collateral, and credit.
Exactly.
Hyper-Bitcoinization is when all real-world assets become tokenized or denominated in Bitcoin.
That's right.
We have the co-chair of this token organization now, the SEC chair, and my Trini music professor, steel pan professor, told me what hasn't happened in years can happen in a day.
Right. Or to quote Lenin, there are decades when nothing happens, and there are weeks when decades happen.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys.
No, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Hadan, I'm so glad you reached out. I'm so
happy
glad
to
we
join
actually
anytime,
did.
guys.
I'm really glad that we did the show yesterday morning, which I think
Yes.
opened up the door to have the conversation we're having today, which has been amazing. And thank you, the three of you and WAGME, for carrying us through an awesome show. All I had to do was press play and kind of listen and giggle every so often.
I feel like I talk too much on this show. I apologize.
No, I let
not
you. Listen, if you weren't adding value, I'd shut you up.
Okay, thank you.
I
It's
would
good
shut
to
you
know.
up.
Thank you.
You don't need. You're good. You're good. You
Yeah,
do it.
okay.
We might have to make you a regular on these shows. You don't have the AI show anymore, so we'll see what happens, right?
I'll send my AI next time.
Oh, you got one first?
That's what Cindy is.
You guys so much. Michael, Hadan, Haddy, I love you, man. Awesome. And I'm glad we got you. Sometimes we miss you getting questions in. Like I see you and the conversation goes around it. You got actually a lot of questions in, more so than a lot of other shows. So I'm glad that we got to that. Sometimes I feel like we miss some of your questions. We run out of time. So I'm just happy that it went this way. I think it was a great conversation, kept going all around. Thank you guys so much for coming out.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
And we'll have to do it again soon.
Yeah, look forward to next time.
I will drop everybody out. Just say goodbye. I am Peace Love Music. We are DeOrganized Media, coming at you with all of the news, information, personalities, and projects developing in the Stacks and broader Bitcoin ecosystem. Coming to you live with our via partnership with our good friends over at Bitcoin Live Decentralized Broadcasting. We come at you every Monday through Friday with the Let's Go Morning Show, news show, morning updates on what's going on in our space. And thank you, Hadan, Michael, WAGME, and my good friend and co-host Brendan Hadfield, Haddy, for an awesome show. And thank you to all of you who tuned in, and especially those who participated in the live chat. You guys make it a super fun time. So I love when you do that. Thank you all, and you have